I'm Rayon, and welcome to Countersteer, a podcast where we try to give bite-sized chunks of automotive history. We're a new podcast, so if we fumble something along the way, please forgive us. I find cars fascinating, and I hope that you would too. And with that now, let's get started on the Bricklin SV-1. Now, the Bricklin SV-1 is an interesting car, but you can't just skip the main course for dessert, right? So let's dig into some context on what exactly the Bricklin was first. Malcolm Bricklin is an American businessman. However, the best way I would describe him is businesses man, because he started over 30 companies. Get it? Ha. Many of them were automotive related, such as importing cars. Now, I'm not sure why someone would want a Yugo in America, except for like niche automotive nerds, but that's besides the point. Well, it seems like he was tired of dealing with like other people's cars, and he decided to make one of his own. And using the money he gained from importing Subarus, which is objectively a better choice than Yugos, he was able to finance the whole operation of making a car. And his idea was to create an accessible sports car, but, and the big but goes here, with gull-wing doors. The proof of concept was a Frankenstein of literally everything, right? And so, you know those like small, like dinky 60s dune buggies, right? Yeah, that dude, Bricklin brought him in. So Myers-Manx was brought in to design the proof of concept, and then the car was going to be powered, or the proof of concept itself was powered by a 6-cylinder Chrysler engine, a Datsun 510 rear suspension, a braking system that was cobbled together from an Opel, a Datsun, and a Toyota, and a steering wheel from a Chevy. And after that, and a few prototypes, Bricklin was off to the races. But of course, life isn't all rainbows and happy times, right? And Bricklin had hit a pothole in the road. Get it? The acrylic and fiberglass body of the car was having issues. And basically, to sum it up, right? Lots of parts affected, not enough fixes. In the end, around 50 to 20% of the parts that Bricklin had created had issues, which is not good and quite costly for a young company. And the car itself had quite limited success, right? A little over 3,000 cars were built in total, and a study was found that 1,200 were around today. I don't know if it was a study, but that was the number, right? 1,200 were around by 2012. And I thought, hey, just for comparison's sake, right? How about we compare to Porsche? And Porsche says that out of the million 911s, a million, what a number, out of the million 911s that they had made by 2017, around 700,000 were still on the road today, which translates to 70% still on the road rate, which is a unit I just made up. And so basically, when using those Bricklin numbers of 3,000 and the 1,200, the Bricklin still on the road rate is approximately 40%. Which I think really shows you just the quality of the Bricklin automobile. And I would say that it pales in comparison to Porsche, you know, unsurprisingly. However, what I do find interesting is when I was researching the Bricklin car, right, like naturally, I found that one of the reasons for the downfall of the Bricklin is nepotism, which is like a little funny. Usually when you think of, oh, why did this car company fail? Nobody bought their cars or something like that, right? But like nepotism, I don't know, interesting. But at the time, right, the political opinion was quite divided. And by political opinion, I mean media. Some media sources were saying like they were comparing the car to a Corvette and like, oh, you know, look at this amazing car. Like it pales in comparison to the Corvette, and like the Corvette is so good and stuff like that. But like they still compared it to it, right? But others were like put it on their 50 worst cars list, which is like, wow, this car sucks. Like, we should put it on our bad cars list, which is quite, like, an interesting spectrum change. But I feel like the cherry on the top is the whole, like, police car ordeal that Bricklin went through. And so we can talk about that, right? So first, Bricklin, for some probably patriotic reason, I think, maybe, I don't know, I'm guessing, assuming, they said that they will give the Scottsdale, Arizona Police Department 5 Bricklin SV-1s, officially leasing them to the city for $1 each. And I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but the $1 lease thing kind of reminds me of the time when some like Corvette dealership and GM came together and they leased Corvettes, right, to astronauts for $1, the Mercury space program astronauts. and then eventually the astronauts had to return the car. But like, I feel like that's what it reminded me of for $1. And then, but after, back to the story, right? But after a few years, I read the wrong line. But back to the story. But here's the actual kicker, right? Only 3 out of the 5 were ever supplied, which is like off to a great start, right? Like, you're promising 5 cars. Like, how you only gonna give 3? Like, at least do the whole 5. And they were never actually used for police work, rather just PR events because officers found them difficult to get in and out of, and the Arizona heat had caused the gullwing doors to stop opening due to electrical issues. What a fantastic car, right? Imagine being stuck in a Bricklin. That's the dream right there. Because the gullwing doors were operated by like hydraulic pistons and stuff, which is like a no-no in Arizona heat apparently. But yeah. And so, talking about the name, right? The Bricklin SV-1. SV-1 stands for Safety Vehicle 1. I'm not exactly sure what the 1 is doing there, but I guess it's number 1, right? Yeah. And so, as Bricklin advertised the car as being very safe, so they had to put Safety Vehicle in the name. And so you can't just say like, oh yeah, our car's really safe, and not talk about it, right? So they advertised like safety features of the car as the car had an integrated rollover structure, which like if you apparently send in your Bricklin too hard and you roll over, you'll be fine, which I guess is nice to know. And also the energy absorbing bumpers that they like put on the car, which I think they're incredibly hideous, but you know, it has like some charm to the car, right? And it's like its own thing, never done before. I'm not exactly sure how well they worked, but they're definitely there. Personally, I actually find the car quite appealing though, I'm not gonna lie. Like, on paper, like, it's such an accessible sports car with good safety features and gullwing doors, which sounds amazing. But like, in reality, I guess a lot of people really disagree with me because horrendous sales and ended up being a total failure. And yeah, at the end it was a failure, massive failure, unlucky. And basically wrapping up, although it was a sad story of a visionary, Malcolm Bricklin, like having a vision but then like going through all the steps and then ultimately failing, Malcolm ended up alright. He's still kicking around some wild ideas. And with that, we've come to the end of our journey through the Bricklin SV-1. From the visionary dreaming up of a revolutionary car, really, to a complete failure, the Bricklin SV-1 serves as a teaching lesson for the automotive space. So join us next time on Countersteer, whenever that is, only time will tell. The plan right now is to the next episode on not a car, but rather a period of cars in the US called the Malaise era. So be tuned for that. Thanks, and have a nice day.